The WWE Universe is in complete and utter disbelief right now, and what I'm about to reveal will make your blood boil with pure rage at the disgusting actions that took place behind the scenes at Monday Night Raw. Liv Morgan, one of WWE's most beloved superstars and the current Women's World Champion, was left writhing in pain after what eyewitnesses are describing as a vicious and unprovoked assault by Dominik Mysterio in a secluded area backstage. This wasn't some scripted segment gone wrong. This was real violence that has left the entire wrestling world questioning everything they thought they knew about Dirty Dom. The attack happened approximately 2 hours before Raw went live, in what sources describe as a calculated and premeditated assault that has left Liv Morgan with injuries that could potentially end her championship reign and derail one of the most successful careers in women's wrestling today. Security footage allegedly shows Dominik cornering Liv in a hallway near the catering area, and what happened next has WWE officials scrambling to contain the biggest scandal to rock the company since the Speaking Out movement. But here's what makes this story absolutely infuriating. Multiple sources backstage are reporting that this attack wasn't just random violence. There are allegations that Dominik's assault on Liv Morgan was motivated by personal issues that go far deeper than anything we've seen on television. We're talking about obsession, rejection, and a level of entitled behavior that reveals the true character of someone who has been presented to fans as nothing more than a spoiled mama's boy. You think you know Dominik Mysterio. You think his on-screen persona as a whiny, privileged brat is just an act. Well, prepare to have your mind completely blown because the reality of who this person really is behind the cameras is so much worse than anything WWE creative could ever script. This is a story about abuse of power, workplace harassment, and how we's culture of protecting certain wrestlers has enabled behavior that would get someone fired from any normal workplace. The timeline of events leading up to this assault reads like a horror story that should never happen in any professional environment. According to multiple independent sources within WWE, Dominik had been making unwanted advances toward Liv Morgan for months, despite her clear rejections and requests for him to leave her alone. These weren't innocent attempts at friendship. Witnesses describe behavior that was predatory, aggressive, and completely inappropriate for a workplace setting. It started subtly, as these situations often do. Dominik would find excuses to be around Liv during training sessions, showing up at the gym when he knew she would be there, positioning himself near her during catering, and constantly trying to insert himself into conversations she was having with other wrestlers. When Liv tried to maintain professional boundaries and distance herself from these unwanted interactions, Dominik's behavior allegedly escalated dramatically. Sources close to the situation describe a pattern of harassment that included unwanted text messages at all hours of the day and night, showing up at hotels where Liv was staying during road trips, and even attempting to find out personal information about her life outside of WWE. When Liv blocked his number and made it clear that his attention was unwanted, Dominik reportedly became increasingly aggressive and threatening in his behavior. The breaking point came during last week's episode of Monday Night Raw, when Liv Morgan finally decided she had endured enough harassment and reported Dominik's behavior to WWE management. She provided detailed documentation of his inappropriate conduct, including screenshots of threatening messages, witness statements from other wrestlers who had observed his behavior, and a formal complaint requesting that the company take immediate action to protect her safety and well-being. But instead of taking decisive action to address the situation, WWE management allegedly told Liv to work it out with Dominik and suggested that his behavior was probably just a misunderstanding. They minimized her concerns, questioned whether she might have somehow encouraged his attention, and ultimately left her feeling more vulnerable and unprotected than ever before. This is where the story becomes absolutely enraging for anyone who cares about workplace safety and women's rights. Liv Morgan, a champion and one of WWE's top stars, was essentially told by her own company that her safety and comfort were less important than avoiding drama or potentially damaging the career of Rey Mysterio's son. The institutional failure to protect her created the perfect storm that led to Monday night's assault. According to eyewitness accounts, Dominik confronted Liv in the hallway approximately 2 hours before Raw went live. He was reportedly furious about her complaint to management and accused her of trying to ruin his career and damage his family's reputation. Witnesses describe him as being in a rage, screaming at Liv and using language that was so inappropriate and threatening that several people in the area stopped what they were doing to watch the confrontation unfold. When Liv tried to walk away from the situation and remove herself from what was clearly becoming a dangerous confrontation, Dominik allegedly grabbed her arm and prevented her from leaving. This is where the situation crossed the line from harassment into physical assault, and where Dominik's true character was revealed for everyone to see. The physical attack that followed has been described by witnesses as shocking in its intensity and cruelty. Dominik allegedly shoved Liv against a concrete wall with such force that she struck her back and head, causing immediate pain and injury. But the assault didn't end there. Sources report that he continued to verbally abuse her while she was in obvious distress, showing a level of callousness and cruelty that has left everyone who knows about the incident completely disgusted. Security personnel and other wrestlers eventually intervened to stop the attack, but the damage had already been done. Liv Morgan was left in visible pain, requiring immediate medical attention from WWE's medical staff. The injuries she sustained include bruising to her back and shoulders, a potential concussion from striking her head against the wall, and what medical personnel describe as significant emotional trauma from the assault. But here's what makes this story even more infuriating. WWE's initial response to the assault was not to immediately fire Dominik Mysterio or call law enforcement to report the attack. Instead, company officials allegedly went into damage control mode, focusing more on protecting their own reputation and the Mysterio family legacy than on ensuring justice for the victim of this assault. Multiple sources report that WWE executives held emergency meetings throughout Monday night, not to discuss how to support Liv Morgan or punish Dominik for his actions, but to figure out how to keep the story from becoming public and damaging the company's image. They reportedly considered multiple cover-up scenarios, including claiming that Liv's injuries were sustained during a training accident or suggesting that the entire incident was a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. The level of institutional corruption and victim blaming that allegedly took place in those boardroom meetings should make every WWE fan absolutely furious. Here's a company that claims to support women's wrestling and promote messages of empowerment and equality, but when one of their female champions is physically assaulted by a male wrestler, their first instinct is to protect the attacker and silence the victim. Dominik Mysterio's behavior represents everything that's wrong with wrestling culture and the entitled attitude of second and third generation wrestlers who believe their family names give them license to behave however they want without consequences. This is someone who has never had to struggle for anything in his wrestling career, who is handed opportunities that other wrestlers work their entire lives to earn, and who apparently believes that extends to feeling entitled to women's attention and bodies. The assault on Liv Morgan isn't just an attack on one wrestler, it's an attack on every woman in WWE who has ever felt unsafe, harassed, or threatened by male colleagues. It's a reminder that despite all the progress women's wrestling has made in recent years, the industry still has deep-rooted problems with how it treats and protects female performers. What makes this situation even more disgusting is how it reflects on Rey Mysterio and the entire Mysterio family legacy. Rey has built his reputation on being a role model, a family man, and someone who represents the best values of professional wrestling. But his son's actions raise serious questions about what kind of values were actually taught in the Mysterio household and whether Rey's public persona matches his private reality. The wrestling community's response to this assault has been telling and deeply disappointing. While some wrestlers have privately expressed support for Liv Morgan, very few have been willing to publicly condemn Dominik's actions or call for accountability. The code of silence that protects abusers in wrestling is alive and well, and it's failing another victim who deserves better from her colleagues in her industry. Social media has been flooded with speculation and rumors about the assault, but much of the discussion has focused on questioning Liv's account of events or suggesting that she somehow provoked the attack. This victim-blaming mentality is exactly what allows predators like Dominik to continue their behavior without consequences, and it's absolutely disgusting to watch unfold in real time. The legal implications of this assault are significant and far-reaching. Liv Morgan has every right to pursue criminal charges against Dominik for the physical attack, and she would likely have a strong case for a civil lawsuit against both Dominik and WWE for failing to protect her from a known threat. The company's documented failure to take action after her initial complaint could expose them to massive liability and potential financial damages. But pursuing legal action would require Liv to potentially sacrifice her wrestling career and go up against one of the most powerful families in professional wrestling. The pressure being applied to convince her not to press charges or go public with her story is reportedly immense, with various WWE officials and wrestlers attempting to minimize the assault and convince her that speaking out would only hurt her own career prospects. This is the reality of being a woman in professional wrestling. Even when you're the victim of a violent assault, you're expected to stay quiet, protect your attacker's reputation, and prioritize the company's image over your own safety and dignity. It's a system designed to protect abusers and silence victims, and Liv Morgan is just the latest woman to be failed by this broken system. The medical evaluation following the assault revealed injuries that could have long-term implications for Liv's wrestling career. The back injuries she sustained could affect her ability to perform certain moves and take certain bumps, potentially limiting her in-ring capabilities and shortening her career. The head injury raises concerns about concussion protocols and whether she should be cleared to compete in upcoming matches and events. WWE's medical staff reportedly downplayed the severity of Liv's injuries in their official reports, describing them as minor and not career-threatening. But independent medical sources who have reviewed the situation suggest that the company's doctors may be more concerned with getting their champion back in the ring than with ensuring her long-term health and safety. The timing of this assault couldn't be worse for WWE, which is currently dealing with multiple ongoing scandals and investigations related to workplace culture and executive misconduct. The company has been trying to rehabilitate its image and convince sponsors, investors, and fans that it has changed its culture and prioritized employee safety. This assault completely undermines those efforts and raises questions about whether anything has really changed behind the scenes. Corporate sponsors and business partners are reportedly concerned about the potential negative publicity surrounding this assault and what it might mean for their associations with WWE. Several companies are allegedly reviewing their sponsorship deals and considering whether continued partnership with WWE aligns with their own corporate values and public image commitments. The assault has also created significant tension within WWE's locker room, with wrestlers being forced to choose sides and take positions on an incident that should be straightforward: violence against women is unacceptable, period. But the political realities of wrestling and the power dynamics within WWE are complicating what should be a simple moral judgment. Some wrestlers are reportedly afraid to speak out against Dominik because of his family connections and the potential impact on their own careers. Others are concerned that supporting Liv too vocally might make them targets for retaliation from WWE management or other wrestlers who prefer to maintain the status quo. This atmosphere of fear and intimidation is exactly what allows abusers to continue their behavior without accountability. The Judgment Day stable, of which Dominik is a member, is reportedly in chaos following the assault. The other members of the group are struggling with how to handle the situation, knowing that their association with Dominik could damage their own careers and reputations. There are reports of heated backstage arguments within the group about whether to distance themselves from Dominik or continue supporting him despite his actions. Rhea Ripley, who has been closely associated with Dominik in storylines, is reportedly devastated by the assault and furious about being put in an impossible position. She's allegedly been one of the most vocal advocates for taking action against Dominik, but she's also concerned about how speaking out might affect her own storylines and career prospects within WWE. The assault has also raised questions about WWE's wellness policy and whether it adequately addresses issues of workplace harassment and violence. The company's policies regarding wrestler-on-wrestler violence outside of sanctioned matches are apparently vague and rarely enforced, creating an environment where someone like Dominik might believe he can attack a colleague without facing serious consequences. Mental health professionals within the wrestling industry are expressing concern about the psychological impact this assault could have on other female wrestlers. The message that WWE's response sends, that male wrestlers can physically attack female colleagues with minimal consequences, creates an atmosphere of fear and vulnerability that could affect the mental health and job performance of women throughout the company. The financial implications of this scandal are potentially enormous. Liv Morgan is one of WWE's most marketable female stars, with significant merchandise sales, social media following, and mainstream appeal. If her career is damaged or shortened by the injuries she sustained in the assault, WWE could lose millions of dollars in potential revenue and promotional opportunities. The assault has also complicated WWE's creative plans for upcoming events and storylines. Liv's status as Women's World Champion was supposed to anchor several major storylines leading up to major pay-per-view events, but her injuries and the ongoing scandals surrounding the assault have thrown those plans into chaos. International media coverage of the assault is raising questions about WWE's global reputation and its relationships with broadcasting partners in other countries. Some international markets have stricter standards regarding workplace violence and gender equality, and WWE's handling of this situation could affect their ability to expand globally or maintain existing international partnerships. The assault represents a complete failure of WWE's supposed commitment to creating a safe and respectful workplace environment. Despite years of public relations campaigns about changing company culture and supporting women's wrestling, this incident reveals that the fundamental problems within WWE remain unresolved and that female wrestlers are still at risk from male colleagues who believe they can act with impunity. Law enforcement officials who are aware of the incident are reportedly encouraging Liv Morgan to file criminal charges against Dominik, emphasizing that workplace assault is a serious crime regardless of the entertainment industry context. They're also investigating whether WWE's failure to act on Liv's initial harassment complaint could constitute criminal negligence or conspiracy to cover up criminal activity. The wrestling media's coverage of this assault has been disappointingly inconsistent, with some outlets focusing more on the potential impact on storylines and business operations than on the serious nature of the violence against Liv Morgan. This reflects broader problems within wrestling journalism and its tendency to prioritize entertainment value over serious issues affecting wrestler safety and welfare. Fan reaction to the assault has been mixed and often disturbing, with some supporters defending Dominik and questioning Liv's account of events. This response highlights the toxic elements within wrestling fandom that contribute to an environment where female wrestlers face additional scrutiny and victim blaming when they report abuse or harassment. The assault has also reignited discussions about nepotism in professional wrestling and whether family connections protect wrestlers from accountability for serious misconduct. Dominik's position as Rey Mysterio's son has arguably shielded him from consequences throughout his career, and this incident represents the ultimate example of how nepotism can enable dangerous behavior. As this story continues to develop, it's becoming clear that this assault represents a pivotal moment for WWE and professional wrestling as a whole. The company's response will either demonstrate a genuine commitment to protecting female wrestlers and creating a safe workplace environment, or it will reveal that the fundamental problems within wrestling culture remain unchanged despite years of public promises to do better. The wrestling community is watching, the media is investigating, and Liv Morgan deserves justice for the assault she endured. This isn't just another wrestling story or creative controversy, this is about basic human decency, workplace safety, and whether the wrestling industry can finally hold abusers accountable for their actions. The truth about what happened between Dominik Mysterio and Liv Morgan must be fully exposed, regardless of how uncomfortable it makes WWE executives or how much it damages the Mysterio family legacy. Violence against women has no place in professional wrestling or any other workplace, and anyone who commits such acts must face appropriate consequences. This assault should serve as a wake-up call for everyone involved in professional wrestling, from executives to wrestlers to fans, that the industry's problems with harassment and violence are far from resolved. Real change requires more than public relations campaigns and sensitivity training. It requires a fundamental shift in culture and a willingness to prioritize victim safety over corporate image and family connections. The wrestling world is waiting to see whether WWE will finally do the right thing and hold Dominik Mysterio accountable for his violent assault on Liv Morgan, or whether this will become another example of the industry protecting abusers while failing their victims. The choice they make will define not just this scandal, but the future of women's safety in professional wrestling. If you thought tonight's story was wild, trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So don't stop now. Click on the video right here on your screen to continue the chaos, the drama, and the inside scoop only we deliver. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join the Wrestling News CC family, where the real stories of WWE come to life. See you in the next one.